Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Third Half podcast by the FCS Live team, brought to you by Ally Marketing and the Pod Escape Room. I'm Jared Klepp along with Gerard Iscani coming in remotely today. Gerard, we have a very interesting guest today coming from the team in blue in Grand Rapids.
We sure do. And if you checked out the Midwest United against Lansing City game, you know who it is because it was one of the best performances we've seen all season.
But before we get there, by the way, it's going to be Fikret Hasovic. So if you have any questions for the Midwest standout Pivo, go ahead and put them in the chat. We'd love to get to your questions. Before we get there, we have some games to recap over the weekend. And coming up later, we are going to talk about the three matches we have this weekend, as well as where we're at in the playoffs, because now more than ever, things matter for the playoffs. But let's get started with the first game recap. This is going to be Lansing City and Midwest at the Lansing City Arena, and this one was all Lansing City. We had multiple goals scored here in the first half, coupled with that toe poke, but Midwest wasn't going to go away easy. They got one to pull the lead within one. Lansing City scores another one, but here's where things got a little bit interesting. Ethan Castaneda coming out, getting a red card for this tackle on Zach Landers, and really rightly so, as being the last man back. Lansing City kills that penalty, being down a player, and they're able to get another goal. But before the half is over, Zach Landers isn't done yet. He scores on Conrad Gonzalez. But neither is Lansing City and Jeremy Kleppel. He takes this one and draws three defenders to him and finds David Saltzman in the back post for an easy one. If you thought that was it, it wasn't. 6-foul penalty. Josh Poshma from Midwest. He comes through twice, but the ensuing play, Lansing City get number 5. And then in half number 2, it was all Lansing City. Kleppel on that one, a back post run off a corner for Jonah Timblow. This one from Elijah Vu coming in close to the arc. And then another back post one, very impressive shot from David Saltzman, finding the top shelf on that one. And then just an excellent left-footed bomb from Leonce Naya Saba. Another look at that one. And to round it out for goal number 12, Elijah Vu on the back post. And that's how the Lansing City Midwest game rounded out. Final score 12-2. Gerard, what were your thoughts about that one?
You know, Lansing City throughout the whole season has started slow, and this wasn't any different. And it wasn't exactly what we had anticipated going into the game, and there was a lot of missed opportunities. But Lansing City had a lot of really strong points during that game. One of the things, even as we watch back on that highlight, that I really like to call out, we haven't seen a lot of this from Jeremy Kleppel this season, but really the ball skills and the creativity. He had that one move where he's juggling the ball, and then he has some dribble moves, slides to his left, slides to his right, and then he finds Saltzman on the back post for the goal. And it was just such an incredible pass. It really encapsulated everything we've talked about from Lansing City with the Kleppel effect this year, and so it was really great to see.
Now, one thing I thought was interesting, this Midwest team, I thought they looked better. So just as a reminder, they hadn't played a game since December 1st. 0-5 in the first 5 games, negative 68 goal differential. Very, very, very rough start to their season.
Mm-hmm.
But they did, even though they lost by 10 in this one, they did look better.
So we talked about this in the third half of last week. We talked about Josh Posthuma being a really excellent shot stopper, and he didn't disappoint once again. He had 21 saves, and there was another player that really stood out this game was Zachary Landers. So he had a goal, but one of the things, and there were 3 different opportunities where he was on basically the goal line and he saved goals. And those are those moments that we think about where a team member is having that impact, not by scoring a goal, but by preventing one from being scored. And the fact that they only lost by 10, the last time these two teams played, it was 19-2. So it was a 17-point score line. And when you think about that goal differential, they did a lot better this game. They definitely demonstrated a lot more structure. And one of the things we talked about during the game was really like some of the preparation opportunities, and maybe if they continue to carry the structure into this weekend, we might see some competitive games.
They have a game coming up against Jinga FS. We're going to talk a little bit more about that one later on in the show. But, you mentioned Zach Landers, and before we go on to the next game, I wanted to also point him out. I think the two players that you mentioned from Midwest, Josh Postma, Zach Landers, I really do think that they were the highlight for Midwest. It seemed like, Postma kind of doing what he's done all season, facing a lot of shots, but he was making a lot of saves. But Zach Landers, I mean, it just kind of felt like he had his foot almost in everything. Like he had this energy, and that's something that I think is, even though it may just seem like a spark for where the Midwest team is at, I definitely think it speaks of maybe something crazy can happen this weekend.
Yeah, he's an exciting player to watch, and he scored 1 goal, took 11 shots, but he also drew the red card on Ethan Castaneda. And the goal that he scored, we saw it on the highlight, but it was a really cheeky chip shot, and it was beautiful. And it takes a high level of skill to do that. And you take together that skill with the way he plays with his heart. It's really fun to watch, and yeah, I'm excited to see him against Jenga this weekend.
On the Lansing City side of that game, we had, I think, 3 players with 2 or more goals. David Saltzman had a hat trick. I think Vu might have come away with a hat trick. What players stood out to you in that one for them?
Yeah, so Elijah Vu had a phenomenal game, 3 goals with an assist. One thing, he also had a steal that led straight to a goal. And one of the things that we continually see from him is that he finds the right positions to be on the court. David Saltzman does the same thing as well. He had 3 goals and assists as well. But really, the difference maker in that game, and we talk about this all the time, is the Kleppel effect. Kleppel had 2 goals and 3 assists. And the assists that he had were the moments where he's really capturing all of the defensive attention, and he's just opening up these paths for his teammates to have easy goals. So we saw it on the highlight there. He had 3 different Midwest players consumed, and David Saltzman has an easy tap in back post. And so those are the moments when you can see how he's almost like a magnet out there, just drawing attention to himself.
You mentioned David Saltzman's goal. He did have a few in that game that I saw him do this, and it was
Yeah,
unfortunate that he missed. But that one he put to the top shelf. I mean, that was maybe as good as finish as we've seen that close in proximity to the goal this year.
Yeah, the angle on that was ridiculous. So, if you know anything about geometry, you know that angle was nearly impossible to make. I still don't understand how he did it. We need to get out on the court with a protractor and a ruler and a yardstick and just like figure out how did he do that, because I don't think that it's possible where he was at. I mean, he was almost out of play, and somehow he gets the ball top corner. Yeah, that was a wild moment to see. And you're right. So 3 different occasions he had potential goal opportunities where he walks away with his heads on his hand and he's frustrated. And so you think he could have easily went to 6 goals, which would have been remarkable.
That would have been something to see, but that was definitely a fun one, the one on the top shelf. So that's Lansing City Midwest. Let's go on to the other game of the week. Grand Rapids Olay hosting Detroit Imperial. Sammy Esquivel getting things started for the Grand Rapids team in red. And in a moment, you're going to see quite a lot of transition goals from Olay in the first half. That one was Chris Mendez. Got another one, Sammy Esquivel. His pressure turning into goal number 5. And they led by 5 at the end of the first half. Imperial were able to, in the first couple of minutes of the second, get one. But this is how a lot of the second half went. I mean, Olay was in control here. They brought up their keeper as a 6th attacker and, or 5th attacker, and, Lito Esquivel is just juggling the ball, saying, Detroit, you guys got to come out and do something. And then, a while later, we see more goals start to come. And in the last 5 or so minutes of the game, Olay pile on a couple of more, and they end up winning that one by a score of 8-1. What did you think was interesting about this one this past weekend, Gerard?
Throughout the season, we've seen Sammy Esquivel grow into a difference maker. So every game over the last 4 to 5 stretch run for Olay, he's had a phenomenal impact. He put away 2 goals this game as well. And for me, it's not just about the goals with Sammy. It's about his commitment to the defensive end. It's about his commitment to impacting all facets of the game. And whether you like it or love it or hate it, he has an impact of getting into the other team's head, and with his celebrations, with the way that he will demonstrate after the goal or after fouls, whatever. There was this one moment where he won a keeper restart, and it was a situation where defensively, he probably shouldn't have, and they might have given up a goal, but he was able to come back. He deflected the ball with a sliding tackle, but it bounced off of, I want to say it was Ahmed Abushaban that it bounced off of. And it was this moment where, like, it wasn't a goal, it wasn't an assist, it was just a slide tackle, ball goes out of play, they get the ball back, but he jumps up and he's like just shouting, as if they just won the World Cup. And it's moments like that that bring not only the energy of the team, but the energy of the arena, like the gym there, and it gets all of the fans in that homeschool building on their side. And it's something that you see time and time again from Ole, especially when they play at home, is that those fans have energy and passion tenfold, and he really draws that out. And so it's this really like unsaid ability of him to pull that energy out from the fans, which is amazing.
I think it's interesting when you talk about Sammy Escovel. He certainly is one of the watching the game this past weekend, and I think this is probably true of the games that he's played in. He's certainly one of the more confident players on the court that we
Mhm.
see. And like you said, he kind of brings this energy. He's not afraid to poke. At the other
Mhm.
team, even maybe more than poke, right? It seems like he's
Yeah.
really, is like sees that getting under the skin of the other players is something that seems to be effective for him and for his team. And like you said, drawing the energy from the fans and things like that. The one thing that I wonder about is a lot of those things. I feel like I don't want to say they could be undermined, but I feel like if he's trying to get under someone's skin and the player just brushes it off, it's like he loses that like power, so to speak. And I feel like I see that in a few areas when it comes to that stuff, that confidence he has and that kind of swagger. Sometimes it's like it seems like maybe the opposing players kind of give him some of this, like it's not power, but you know what I'm saying. Like it's like like as an opposing player, I feel like you could just cut that off.
Yeah, so really interesting. When we look back to when Lansing City went to Grand Rapids, we actually called that game together. And that was my first time ever seeing Sammy Escobar play. And I walked away from that game knowing kind of like some of the opportunities he's had recently with the US men's national team, and thinking like, wow, this is going to be a battle between Sammy and Jeremy Kleppel. Like these are like the titans of futsal. That's what I was thinking going in. And I walked away from that game disappointed, honestly. And what I think is exactly what you're talking about right there is that in so many ways he draws on that energy from the opposing team. And Jeremy has like a really great foundation of composure with the Lansing City team that he's developed, and they maintained their emotional mindset throughout that game. That nobody lost their cool, and it was a really tight game. And he didn't have the impact that we've seen him have every single game since. And so, yeah, I love that point that you make, and it's really speaks to it a lot.
Before we get to special guest for the night, Fikret Hasovic, remember, if you have any questions for him, feel free to put them in the chat. We're going to get to him in just a couple of minutes. Let's talk a little bit for a second about the Detroit side. Ole
Hmm.
seemed like they were comfortable for a lot of the game. I put under there, they kind of seemed a little bit unbothered for a lot of the game, in particular the second half. And when we were calling the game, I remember we had a conversation. We felt surprised that there was kind of a lack of, I don't know if I would say fire, but it was like there was no urgency. It doesn't seem like there was urgency from Detroit Imperial in half number two.
It didn't, and it was really strange. And so I went back and watched the first half, and I watched the game a couple of times actually. And one of the things that has been a challenge for Detroit Imperial, and it was a large challenge for them last time these two teams met, was their composure. And so they lost their composure. DePoche got a red card. there was another player that got a red card as well. I'm trying to think of who that was. He didn't play in this game.
Sandro Litwin.
But
Sandro Litwin
yeah,
got a double,
yeah.
two
So
yellows, I
they
think,
had
is what it was.
two red cards in that game. Yep, it was two yellows. And so when you think about the composure and how that's been a continual opportunity for Imperial, and you go back and watch that first half, there's so much emotion in that game and so much intensity from them. And I really think that what that Pierce Brannigan tried to do at halftime was get the team to play with more composure, and they were successful with that. So when you look at what did they do right in the second half, they didn't lose their cool. No one got a red card. They only had that single yellow card all game, which that came in the first half as well. And so when you think DePoche played on a yellow card for the entire second half, and he didn't lose his cool, and so that's something to be really proud of and to walk away with. Okay, we know how to play with composure now. We know how to not let Sammy get into our head and let Olay get into our head. Now what they need to do is they need to match that composure with the intensity and energy and drive and performance that they're capable of. Because when you look at before the red card happened, the Imperial we saw back at Futsal Sala, they were leading 3-1 against not arguably, the best team in the league right now, Olay. They're hands down the best team in the league. They've shown that time and time again. They were really dominating that game in so many ways. And after that red card, and then in this rematch, they weren't the same. And so take that same energy, intensity, and effort that they had pre-red card, first game Futsal Sala, match it with the composure in the second half, and wow, that's a team to watch.
Well, this weekend, Grand Rapids Olay can all but lock in the number 1 seed for the playoffs with a victory on Friday, I believe, is when they play. We'll talk a little bit more about that, as well as Detroit Imperial's road to getting in the top 4 and in the playoffs. But first, we're going to go to break, and then we're going to bring on Fikret Hasovic from Midwest United. So get your questions ready, and we'll see you on the other side of the sponsors.
Committing a crime so you can try to escape from prison. Bad idea. Going to the pod escape room to play an escape game with your friends. Great idea. Test your skill as an astronaut in outer space. Find Santa in Save Christmas. Or take a vacation to an abandoned island. Just don't get stuck there. The Pod Escape Room. Learn more at thepodlansing.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Third Half podcast by the FCS Live team. This podcast is sponsored by the Pod Escape Room and Ally Marketing. I'm Jared Kleppel along with Gerard Iscani. And Gerard, tonight we get to welcome in a very special guest from Grand Rapids, the team in blue, Midwest United. It is Fikret Hasovic. Fikret, thanks so much for joining the show tonight.
Thank you guys for having me.
We appreciate you coming out to the studio here in Lansing. Even Gerard didn't do that today, so I'm just teasing. Gerard is, protecting us with some family sickness going around, so we appreciate that. So, Fikret, one of the things that we wanted to do, bring you on, is we just wanted to kind of get to know you a little bit more, hear a little bit about your, how you got started in futsal and your life as an athlete. So, start me from you seem like an athlete. You seem like you started, playing probably soccer from a young age. Tell me about what that was like for you, getting into futsal.
So actually, I got into futsal from Jesse Zamudio. He reached out to my dad when I was younger, maybe 8 years old, and ever since then, I went for my first practice and I fell in love with futsal. It really did. I love everything about it, like the speed of the game, the tempo, the movement, the different plays. Like, there's just so much to futsal that people don't know about, and that's just kind of what I fell in love with. Yeah.
So, did you grow up playing soccer?
Yeah, I grew up playing soccer my entire life. Yeah.
Your entire life, and you still play because you play for Aquinas, correct?
Yeah, I play for Aquinas College.
Okay.
Currently.
And what year are you right now?
I'm a sophomore.
Sophomore.
Yep.
And in the outdoor game, what position do you play?
I play either the attacking mid or like a holding mid.
Okay.
Yep.
Attacking mid or holding mid. So around 8 years old, you got your first introduction to futsal.
Yep.
How did that first introduction turn into being, on the Midwest team this year in the FCS?
Well, it started with me creating a family with those guys back in the day. We all played together all these years, and then we all stayed together, and we won trophies. We all loved winning trophies and fell in love with winning trophies. We all stayed together. And from Midwest, Gio reached out to me saying, "Hey, would you like to play?" I was like, "Yeah, of course," because Gio coached me during my academy days at futsal, and we won a national championship with Gio, and I enjoyed every single second of having Gio as my coach. So when I had the opportunity for him to be my coach again, I was like, yeah, I'm in. So then that's kind of how I joined Midwest futsal.
That's awesome. So when I was talking to you a little bit before we went on camera, you had mentioned there was you had played for some other futsal teams as well as some arena soccer teams. Tell me a little bit about that side. Who did you play for before you played for Midwest?
So I played for ABK futsal. I played for Ole futsal.
So did you play for Fabian then?
Yep, I did play for Fabian. I also went to nationals for Fabian as well,
Okay.
and also won a trophy for Fabian as
Nice.
well.
I know there's a lot of crossover with
yeah.
a lot of the guys in those two teams.
Yeah. So I know all those guys. I love them all. They're all great guys. Fabian as well. He did a lot for me and all the guys that grew up with me. So we all thank Fabian for sure.
You played with ABK.
ABK, Ole. But before Midwest was a thing, it was called Columbus Crew. So it was Crew, then Midwest, and then I stayed for Midwest, played MLS Next there throughout my entire high school, and then went from Midwest to Aquinas College, and then summer teams I played for Midwest USL2, played for FCBIH. Then when it comes to arena, I play for Muskegon Risers, which is like a MASL2 team in Muskegon.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, we were, interestingly, Gerard, you were asking some questions before we went on camera about the arena team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of the things, I'm newer to futsal, got a deep background in soccer, and I know almost nothing about arena. How do you compare the arena game to futsal and then also to soccer as well?
So the arena game to futsal it's similar, but it's also not similar, as futsal is it's smaller, tighter, you like more movement, as in arena it's bigger, like quicker subs, like more rules. There's like 3-line rule, which is like you can't kick the ball over 3 lines, blah blah, yeah. But futsal is like quick pace. You get more shots, get more goals, more like
More like action and that
more
kind of thing?
action, more
Yeah.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you this actually kind of leads into one of the questions I want to ask you. It kind of comes down to like why do you play futsal? Like what do you love about the game of futsal?
What don't I love about futsal? I mean, I love everything. It's competitive for sure. That's like the number one thing. Everyone is competitive in the futsal environment. Everyone wants to win. No one wants to lose. The creativity, like you see guys that can do stuff that you've never seen in your life. Like, there's plays that actually work. You might not think that they work, but when the team gets out there and does the play, you're like, wow, it actually just worked. You actually just seen it like from a board go onto a court, and it's like, just wow, it actually worked.
Yeah.
So that was like my vision of, yeah.
That's really cool. That's really cool. You know, before we talk a little bit more about your, experience in futsal with Midwest United, I'm curious. Your name Fikret Hasovic.
Yep.
What kind of last name is that? Like, what's the heritage?
I'm Bosnian. My parents came from Bosnia.
Okay.
Yep.
So they immigrated over,
Yep.
and so like your first generation growing up in the
Yep.
States.
Yeah.
Wow. So cool. From Bosnia.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Gerard, any other questions about for Fikret and kind of his personal life?
I mean, I'm really ready to get started talking about the games.
All right, dude. Lead us off, man.
Yeah.
Lead us off.
Look, we got the chance to see you play for the first time in person against Lansing City. So that was our second game of the night. We came from Grand Rapids watching Olay play, and then came to see you all play. And wow, what a performance! And so I want to know, what is it that made you so successful in that game, not only on the offensive end but on the defensive end as well?
So during that first half, I actually had a moment where I was like angry. I wasn't like doing good. I was talking to my friend Daniel on the bench, and he was also mad. And we like got into the halftime locker room. We were just like, "Hey, like we gotta lock in. Like I want to win this game." And it was just like a both mentality thing. And then we went out there second half, and I mean, wow, it was like a second half like that people would not want to miss to watch. Like it was a great second half of futsal. But for me, I just really did not want to lose that game. Lansing City is like a big rival, but yeah, I just really did not want to lose that game.
One of the things that was really impressive was the athleticism and the physicality that you're able to maintain. And when you did that, like, so there were so many times when you were so physical, and we even on the stream were talking about the difference of how referees let the Fixo and Pivo go at it. You maintain that physicality, but you also had like a gentle touch, right, to be able to maintain control of the ball. Like how are you able to be so strong, but then like so gentle at the same time?
So the strong part, I guess I can give that to my dad. I mean, he kind of taught me how to post up. He taught me everything, I guess. But the strength, the touch is like, the touch was kind of just reps over the years, getting your touch down. Because touch is like very, very important in soccer. I feel like it's like like a number one key factor that you need to have is like a great first touch. Because without a first touch, I mean, can't really do much. But it's also mental. When I'm out there, I just like thinking like no one is gonna knock me over. No one is gonna push me. No one is I'm gonna like be all over them. I'm just gonna be in their head. Yeah. So I just kind of, yeah.
Who would you say, you mentioned your dad with teaching physicality and posting up. Do you feel like there's, and maybe the answer is your dad, but do you feel like there's a particular mentor that you've had in your, futsal life as well as just your soccer life in general that you would point to?
For my soccer life, for the most part, it would be my dad. There's also like a couple of people that are from Grand Rapids that obviously pushed and motivated me, inspired me a lot, that are also friends with my dad. So it's like more of just like a family type thing. And then for the futsal part, it was like a family thing, like friends that turned into family, and then we just kind of wanted to keep it going, playing together, and that just kind of inspired all of us to just keep together, and just if we stay together, like no one could beat us, and that's kind of what we did. So then, yeah.
Interesting take. Cesar Elias says he's your mentor.
Man, C's is. I don't know what to say about him, man. That dude's just.
And he plays
No
for Olay
words.
currently
Yeah,
right now,
he
right?
does, yeah.
So what's your relationship with him like?
Oh, that's my brother. Like we played for the same arena team, played for the same futsal team. I knew him for like probably 6-7 years now.
Okay.
But it's just only like, I knew him from soccer, and then from soccer we kind of grew that brotherhood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It seems like that is pretty common for a lot of the players I'm gathering from the Grand Rapids team, both Olay and Midwest. Not only is there connections across the teams,
Yeah.
but it seems like there is a lot of people becoming like family. Is that
Yeah,
accurate?
I mean, I love everyone at Olay. I mean, all of them as family. I play with all of them. I love all of them. But same thing for us. I'm sure they all love us, but when it comes to being on the court versing each other, we all hate each other. We all want to. I mean, no one wants to lose that game. Like,
Yeah.
so, and they did get us last time. So
Yeah. There was
a lot of trash talking going on,
I bet.
probably for like 2 weeks. So
Yeah.
yeah, I got a handful of that. So.
Yeah, I bet. Well, that was actually one of the things I wrote down was about that game you guys had against them. The first of the season. You tie at home 6-6, and then the second one, obviously, they put you guys in a place that you probably don't really like to talk about.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about, if you can bear it, what that was like, and maybe even comparing the two games and what you feel like you guys need to bring the next time.
So in that second game where they beat us, we had a game plan and we stuck to the game plan, but they worked very, very well around that game plan. And whatever game plan they had, I mean, it was very, very good. They were able to, I mean, they scored 9 goals on us, 10, and we only scored 1. So they had a very good offensive and a very good defensive game, and it was just their day, I guess.
Yeah.
We had the chances, like we just didn't put them away. They did.
Yeah.
So.
Would you say that game was like the worst moment this season?
Oh yeah, for sure, 100%. Yeah,
100%.
all of us in the locker room were just sad, like just. But we just can't wait to play them again. So
yeah,
we just really can't.
So and if you guys were to, I mean, it would probably be in the finals because it's looking like you and Olay will be the top 2 seeds, so you won't see each other in the playoffs. What's it like at this point in the season? You guys have how many matches more? Like 2 or 3? Gerard, do you know off the top of your head how many more they have?
They have 2 left.
2. Okay, so 2 matches left to play. You've already clinched, home court advantage. Yep. Most likely the number 1 seed is out of reach. So what is it like being on a team in that position? One of the things that we kind of one of the stories that we were thinking about for tonight is it's kind of felt like you guys have been a little sneaky, right? And some of that's been because we didn't really start doing third half episodes until you guys had already played like 7 games. So we just haven't really talked much about you guys. But you're kind of like in this sneakily in second place, not getting a lot of attention, not really talking about. So what's it like for you guys being in that position where, number 1, there's not a lot of talk going on, but also number 2, it's like you are kind of set for the postseason. Yeah. So what, you guys rest players the next couple games, or you know what I mean? Like, you're obviously not the coach, and I don't want you to speak for that. But yeah, let me know what you think.
No, I mean, Gio told me he wants to win every game that we play, so he told me that no one's going to be resting, and we're just going to go out there and try to win these last 2 games, going into the playoffs with more confidence and just going out there playing our game, and hopefully we get to the final and just see Ole again or whoever makes it to the final. But yeah, just hoping it'll be a good one.
We mentioned about that low moment of losing to Ole at their home court. What you'd say is like your best moment of this year?
Best moment of this year, I would say, was that Lansing City game. I love that
at home,
game.
Right?
Yeah, it was at home. Yeah. That game was just all around a great futsal game. Yeah.
And I don't know if you would agree or not, Gerard, but like when I was looking back at that game a little bit, I think it was this week or last week, I also felt like that was maybe one of my favorite games to watch.
Yeah, right before we started the show tonight, I was trying to think back. I don't know if there's a better performance, so not only the game, but from Fikret specifically, I don't know if there's a better all-around performance. I mean, there's so many times you just say, oh, Jeremy, any game for him. But like the fact, like all around dominance and so many skills that you showed that night, Fikret, that were really impressive for me. So that game stands out. And we were there in person, and to see that difference from first half to second half, like you talk about, it's really cool to hear you say like that you all locked in too. Like
Yeah.
you felt it. Like that was really cool. One of the things I'm really curious about, because you said about the game plan against Olay, like that was 1 week. You were on this incredible high. You all did a phenomenal effort as a team. You had an outstanding performance, and then it really felt like you all fell flat against Olay. Like, can you like pinpoint anything that kind of
Uh,
like led to that?
I I think we did everything that we could to prepare for the game. I mean, every player was at practice. Everyone was trying at practice. We were doing the game plans. We were trying plays. But I mean, we have to blame ourselves. We can't really blame anyone else. Like we got whooped. Like it's obviously our fault. So something that we did wasn't right. So for the next time we prepare for the game, we're gonna have to do something a little different. Obviously, I mean, I hope Coach Gio is out there listening to this. So we need something different for the next time we play them. I mean,
So look, on a third half, we love to go deep, right? We love to get into the analysis. Give us like some. What can you tell us? Tell us about the game plan.
You want him to give away all the secrets?
Yeah,
Is that what you're trying to say?
I mean, it already happened. Anybody can go watch the film, right? Like what?
yeah.
That
It was just
like a tactical piece.
we were just trying to get one-on-ones to the Alas, the guys on the outside. They're all very creative, quick guys that like to go down the line, get a shot down the line, back post. So our game plan was get down the line, back post shots, back post player. But yeah, we didn't really achieve that.
Question from the chat, actually coming from Jake George. He mentioned about how in conversations with Gio Garcia, your coach, he's praised your team for their ability to focus on, one game at a time this season, not be distracted. How important do you feel like that mindset is for you and other young athletes on the team?
I think it's a great mindset, very important to have, just because you never know when it could be your last soccer game, futsal game, whatever it could be. You can get hurt, injured, whatever. Don't really obviously hope no one gets injured, but you never really know when it could be your last game. So whenever you get out there, you always want to give it your all. You want to be the best player. You want to stand out. You want to be that person that people are like, wow, look at that person. Like, yeah.
Yeah, a couple of other questions just about the culture of your team. You've mentioned that you've played on a few different, outdoor teams. You've played on arena soccer teams, some other futsal teams. What sets the culture and the team of this particular Midwest United team? What sets that apart from the other ones?
We're young and we like to have fun. I mean, at practice, for example, like we turn the speaker on, we blast the speaker during practice if we're like scrimmaging. Like we like to just all like to have fun. Midwest, like just all around, is a great club for young athletes who want to be something, who want to go somewhere, who want to get looked at, who want to get developed, and yeah.
What's another question from the chat? What makes you stay motivated in the playing of futsal?
What keeps me motivated is just the fact that you never know if you are getting looked at, or I mean, for me, a thing is, I mean, everyone's dream is to make it out or like go pro somewhere, whatnot, whatever it is. So for me, it's just, I don't know, I just play every game as in someone's watching, or if I have a chance to go, or like, yeah.
What do you think has been the you guys are sitting in a pretty good spot. As we mentioned, you're a number 2 seed right now, and you have locked at the home court advantage in the playoffs. If you had to point to something that's been the reason for your success this season, what might you say?
I would say it's all the guys. All the guys are putting in the work. That's just not just the players. It goes to coaching staff, Hector. A huge shout out to Hector, who even put all this together. Like everyone is a huge part of it. Everyone does something important, whether it's playing, whether it's setting up the jerseys, whether it's setting up game days, whether it's selling tickets at the game. Like everyone's a huge factor at Midwest, and that's why everyone. Yeah.
Gerard, we got time
that,
for a couple more, so go for it, man.
Oh yeah, I mean, I have an endless amount of questions. Fikret, you mentioned this a couple of times earlier about playing for Gio. I've been really impressed with Gio's just mentality that he brings to the game. Tell me a little bit more about why you love playing for him.
I mean, his mentality is similar to mine. He hates losing. Like he absolutely hates losing. I think he hated that Olia loss more than we did. I think he was beat more by it than all the players were. And that comes with the coach. Like if the coach cares, that shows the players, motivates the players. That if the coach cares, like the players should put in a little extra work to be able to make the coach happy in some way. Like he's not there just for fun. Like he's there because he wants to be there. Yeah.
I got time for one more, Gerard.
All right, last one. I wanted to ask because you mentioned about Daniel De Leon being a friend and the way that he played coming out against Lansing City. Last game we saw you all play, I got to be there in person, and I was really impressed with De Leon's creativity. Tell me a little bit about who he is as a player.
Daniel is a player, man. Wow. Growing up, he was that guy. He's the smallest guy in the court, but like you try to push him, you can't even push him because the guy just like slimes, like slicks to you, like. But it's just the fact that he can make a play from all the way being at the fixo. He can dribble through like 2-3 guys like it's nothing, and then pat. He doesn't even like to shoot, so it's just he always looks for that pass. He's not selfish. He's just he never even liked scoring. He just liked playing. He never was in it for the glory or like for the looks or like whatever. He just played because he loved it. Love Daniel forever. Like, yeah.
So final question, and then we'll do our quick fire questions for you. I want to know a little bit about the goals that you have in futsal, in soccer. In the chat, Luke Miller put it as where you see yourself in 5 years or 10 years. So tell us a little bit about the trajectory that where you're trying to go, whether that's in soccer, futsal, or otherwise.
Well, I mean, in 5 to 10 years, I'm hoping that I'm professional in somewhat. I mean, either futsal, arena, or outdoor. I mean, I hope one of those three work out. You never know, but yeah, it's about.
That's where you're trying to go.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, I think even after got a lot of good futsal left in the FCS, but even after that, you mentioned the USL2. We'll be seeing you in the outdoor game as well. So let's do some quick fire questions. Gerard, you got us the first one?
Yeah. All right. Tell us your FCS dream team. 5 players.
Ooh.
That's you're putting him on the spot for that one. Maybe you should have given some heads up or something.
Oh my God. Okay. Goalie. I'll go with Miguel. Go with Jeremy. Jeremy's in the Sammy. Me and Daniel.
There you go. With 10 seconds to think about it.
Yeah. I had no idea.
Someone's gonna clip this and post it all over and find ways to say this was wrong or something,
Yeah, C's is about to start texting me after this for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Gerard's trying to start something, I think. How about this one? This one's a little lighter. If you could have any superpower, what would it be?
To fly?
To fly.
Yeah, I'd love to fly.
He wants to fly. What's your go-to meal or snack?
Go-to meal is a chicken sandwich or a burger.
Like from like a fast food? Or just
depends. Yeah, make it or fast food. But
fast food.
Yeah.
Do you have a a go-to pregame song?
Pregame song, anything by Nav. Any song by Nav.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you could visit anywhere in the world, where'd you go?
I want to go to Dubai.
Dubai.
Yeah, I think it's beautiful.
Nice.
Yeah.
If you could have dinner with any person on the planet, who would it be?
Messi.
Messi.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Gerard, you got a couple more quick fire ones?
All right, quick fire. Roger Straz, we know that he loves candy, but we don't know his favorite candy, so we want to know yours. What's your favorite candy?
Nerd gummy clusters. Yeah.
All right. So quick fire. When will your player bio be in so our fans can go read all about you?
You have ulterior motives tonight, Gerard. What's going on?
It will be in before the next game.
You can just use all the information he just spent like the last 30 minutes talking about and put it on there.
All right. Last quick fire question. How many goals are you going to score against Imperial?
I'm thinking 4.
4.
Hopefully.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think it was Jose Vicario, a teammate, said, let's see if I can find it. Hat trick this weekend for you. He said, trust.
I'm going to try my best, man.
Awesome. Well, Fikret, thanks so much for joining us on the show. We really appreciate your time. It was great to get to know you.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having me. I had a great time, and thank you guys.
Absolutely. We're going to go to a quick break, and then when we come back, we're going to have our final segment talking about this weekend's 3 upcoming games as well as the playoff picture and where each team is in that. So we're going to send you to our sponsors. Don't go anywhere.
Committing a crime so you can try to escape from prison. Bad idea. Going to the pod escape room to play an escape game with your friends. Great idea. Test your skill as an astronaut in outer space. Find Santa in Save Christmas. Or take a vacation to an abandoned island. Just don't get stuck there. The Pod Escape Room. Learn more at thepodlansing.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Third Half podcast by the FCS Live team. This podcast is sponsored by Ally Marketing and the Pod Escape Room. I'm Jared Klepp along with Gerard Ascani. We just had Fikret Hasovic from Midwest United on the show. Great time talking with him. Gerard, if you missed it, make sure you go back and check that out. Standout Pivo from Midwest United, the cool blue Grand Rapids guys that are sitting silently in second place. Before we get to the entire playoff picture, Gerard, tell me what you think about this, the cool blue that they're feeling a little sneaky right now at that second place.
Yeah, they've had a really outstanding season. And if you haven't had a chance yet to watch that Lansing City match against Midwest United, it's really an incredible display of how great of a sport futsal is. Please go back and watch it. Like, you heard Fikret talk about it. Jared and I had a chance to be there in person, and it was just an outstanding atmosphere. But go back and watch it, and you will see really what makes this sport amazing. And Midwest, in so many ways, that was like their hallmark moment for the season to show who they are as a team. And so it will be really cool to see how they close it out with the last two games and then going into the playoffs, because they've already clinched playoffs so far too.
Yes, they have. And speaking of that, let's take a look at what our playoff picture looks like right now. We have a little graphic here we're going to pull up. Yeah, here it is. So we can see that Midwest United and Grand Rapids Ole at 1 and 2. They have already clinched both a playoff berth and home court advantage. So technically the number 1 seed and number 2 seed are still up for grabs. But I believe with a win this weekend, Ole all but clinches that number 1 seed. But the important part is they've both clinched home court advantage. And right now, Gerard, technically all teams are in contention still. But not only the amount of points they have and where they're at in the standings right now, but that little number in the bottom left of each team is really important.
It is. Yeah, goal differential is the first tiebreaker in the FCS. And, it is a technicality that Midwest is still alive at this point, but really unrealistic and improbable. They have a negative 78 goal differential. The closest game this season was a 9-goal differential for them. So for them to have a chance, realistically, not possible.
I think they have to win out, and they do have 2 games against Ole. And, like you said, it would be very, very tough based on what their season's been like so far.
Yeah, I mean, the game to really look out for, and you've talked about this a couple times, like really the one that they probably circled on their calendar is against Jenga this weekend, Sunday. So Sunday night they play Jenga, and that's a winnable game for them. Last time they played, though, Jenga won, I think it was 13-0. And so when you think about, even though Jenga's not an offensive superpower, they're not a team that's coming out and just lighting up the scoreboard every game. They're more defensive focused. They lit it up pretty well against Midwest the first time around. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a double-digit win. The one call-out is if they're going to play, which they're scheduled to play on Football Sala, if they're playing on that really small court, all bets are off. Who knows what can happen on those courts? And so Midwest has a chance. But when you think about the other 3 teams that are really fighting for this, Jenga, Detroit Imperial, Lansing City. Detroit Imperial has a tough road in front of them because they play Midwest, and we just talked about Midwest United and what they bring to the table. And I don't see them taking points away from Midwest United. I mean, that's the challenge. If Imperial doesn't score any points, all they can hope for is for Midwest to take full points against Jenga, and then they would stay. But if Jenga gets any points, then they're out of playoff contention if they don't take any points from Midwest United. And so the team that really is feeling the best right now of those 3 is Lansing City, because right now they have the goal differential on their side, and they go into Ole, or they play Ole in Lansing. And that was a game in which we talked about earlier that one of the standout performers of the season, Sammy Escovel, didn't show up the same way that he has against every other team against Lansing City. And you think they're not going to have the energy from their home fans unless they travel. We'll see how they travel. But Lansing City playing at home, I feel pretty good about that compared to going against Midwest United. But once again, Imperial's at home, Futsal Sala. If they play there, same thing we said for Jenga, right? All bets are off on that small court.
Last time Lansing City and Ole met, that was a 3-4 victory for Ole. That's the closest margin for any team that's played Ole this year, especially at home, other than the 6-6 draw first game of the season that they had at Midwest United. So really, to sum up the playoff picture, the three teams you're looking at is 3, 4, and 5, Jenga City and Detroit Imperial. And this weekend, Imperial and Jenga both play their final game, and then Lansing City will have all the information for their last one, hosting Ole the following week on March 8th. So let's just turn our attention over to that for a second. First, it's going to be, I want to talk about Detroit. This is the game that's on Saturday, so we're going to go a little bit out of order here just so we can talk about Imperial and Jenga. So Imperial is going to welcome Midwest United to Futsal Sala, and the first time, Midwest United won 8-5. However, we know this time will be different. It's a much smaller court, and Imperial will have players they didn't have the first time.
Yeah, they were missing some key players in that game. And one of the things that is interesting, we've talked about this a lot, and you just heard it from Fikret, the court size has a tremendous impact on the game itself. And so I wouldn't anticipate it playing out the same way that it played out last time. But it could quickly snowball if things get out of control one way or the other for either team.
I think you pointed out right that the small court does make a big difference. I know we've talked a lot about that on the show. Might feel like we're beating a dead horse at this point, but I mean, you just can't not say it. I mean, the game is so different on a small court. Like you said, it kind of feels like all bets are off when you talk about being on a smaller court. There's just a lot more chaos that happens, a lot more bouncing around, a lot more transition, not as much possession and flow of the game. So it does allow for those things to happen. What do you think? What happens in this match this coming weekend? I mean, Midwest United, they're in a comfortable position. They have home court advantage already for the playoffs. Detroit Imperial, they're fighting for that last spot, the last couple spots, as you mentioned. If they lose this game, it's kind of a situation where if they win, they are basically in, and if they lose, they're basically out.
Yeah, and we talked about a couple of different players so far, and if I had to put my bet on a difference maker for both of these teams, and I really think it's going to come down to composure, because this is a game that could have some fireworks happening, and two players, Davide De Poche and Daniel De Leon, have gotten red cards this season for moments where they've lost composure or for dissent with the officials or violent conduct. And so when you think about those are two difference makers for both of those teams, which one will show up with composure, which one will show up with the right level of intensity to have a positive impact on the game?
And again, this is one that Imperial really, essentially, it's a win and you're in, and lose and go home. But there are scenarios that they could lose and still make it in, and they could win and not make it in if some crazy things happen. So let's talk about. I want to end on the Midwest Jenga game. So let's go to Friday first. This one feels like a David and Goliath, right? Two very different teams, one unbeaten, one yet for a win. What are you expecting on Friday at Homeschool Building?
I expect to see a lot of goals scored and a lot of goals scored for Ole, and not a lot of shots taken by Midwest. So one of the things, as we've been going back and looking at stats for the entire league, time and time again, teams that play Ole take less shots on average than they typically take, and it's really a standout of their defense. And so we talked about goalkeepers last week, and we had some conversation about like Ole's goalkeepers, and we don't see as much from them. Well, the reason we don't see as much from them is because there's not a lot of shots on goal from the other team. They play so solid defensively. You take that defensive structure from Ole and the lack of discipline from Midwest, and it's not really a good story.
I think it's very
Midwest.
Interesting. Yeah, well, when you I think it's interesting when you talk about Grand Rapids Ole's defense. We just saw Midwest play Lansing City at Lansing City hosted, And I feel like this is a similar game as far as it's a big court. Lansing City played Ole very even on a big court. But the one thing that I think Ole has that Lansing City hasn't shown is when you're talking about this defense, like we have not seen Ole give up easy goals, simple goals, whether it be from mistakes or even counters. I think Lansing City is more aggressive in, even the goals that we saw and the red card that happened the past game because of the chance of the 1v keeper. It was like it was kind of this long transition, and Lansing City has this high press, and I think they're not respecting that. I don't know if that's the best term for it, but it seems like Ole limits that much more than Lansing City does. And so what kind of chances do Midwest get in this game?
Yeah, so Ole, one of the things that they did against Imperial that really helped limit their shots. So Imperial only took 13 shots in the entire game. And when again, 13 shots in a futsal game, Jeremy Kleppel against Midwest last week had 35 shots by himself. And so how did Detroit Imperial only get 13 shots? And it's because of the defensive structure of Ole. So what they did for the majority of the second half was they dropped off completely, and they played a little bit of like a 2-2 zone where they had two people at the top and two people down below. And they really condensed the penalty area to make sure that there weren't clear opportunities for Imperial. And so Imperial, all they could really do was pass around the top. They couldn't get any breaks, any free plays. And so it really forced creativity on the other team as the only way to get a score, because the counterattacking wasn't going to work because they were playing back. They weren't high pressing. And so you got to think, what an excellent job that Fabian Rodriguez did with understanding how to game plan against Imperial last week. And I would expect more of the same against Midwest this week.
So, Ole, their situation seems pretty obvious, right? With a win, they basically lock up number 1 seed. They have a home court advantage no matter what. Obviously, getting that number 1 seed is useful because then you play the lowest seed. You'll play the number 4 instead of the number 3. That is kind of important. This is going to be their first game of 2 against Midwest. They play Midwest again next week. And then their last game is against Lansing City. What do you think, in a short phrase, what do you think are the two perspectives of these teams coming in? What do you think Ole's perspective is coming into this game, and what do you think Midwest is thinking?
Ole win, Midwest develop. Like it's one of the things that Francois talked to us about throughout the season, is that they're just trying to develop a team and a culture and some young players. They have Joshua Hahn, who's 13 years old. And so when you think about the difference, Ole's, they're developing players, but they're developing at a much higher level. And so they're really coming in expecting to win. And I don't think that Midwest has that expectation whatsoever.
Now let's talk about the final game of the weekend. This is on Sunday. And this is one that I think the odds will definitely be defied in this one, with Jinga no wins away from home, and Midwest in all likelihood will still be winless at this point. What do you expect for this one?
Yeah, this will be interesting, right? Because Midwest hasn't won, and Jinga has lost all of their road games. So somebody is going to make a difference here and come away with their record being blemished in some way in a positive fashion. And so when I think about Jinga, they demonstrated the first time they played Midwest, at least at home in Cincinnati, an ability to score goals that we haven't seen from them the rest of the season. And so they did in that game have a lot of players that haven't been playing with them recently. And so let's see what happens. Who do they bring to the game? You think about somebody like Nicholas Rumusek, Shota Takabatake. Those are players that have been having more of an impact lately. And Shota wasn't with them then, and Rumusek didn't have an impact in that first game. So are these players now that have developed and that can play and maintain what they did then? Or is Midwest going to come in here with somebody like Zachary Landers and Josh Postuma and shut it down defensively? So it's going to be interesting. As of right now, they're still slated to play in Football Sala. And so with it being a small court, you got somebody like Postuma in goal. It's going to be tough to get it past them.
What do you think would be the difference in this one? I mean, the way things have gone all season, it seems like you can put the W in for Jinga. But like I said earlier, I do think Midwest looked better, right, in the last one against Lansing since their last game on December 1st. Now, how much better? What kind of a spark is that? I heard one person say it's kind of like it's like a glimmer, right? That's what it feels like, right? They still lost by 10, but it seems like there is something that's maybe was there that wasn't there. So what's the difference in this one? Do you think there is a chance that Midwest can this is their one shot to get a W, or come away with a result? And if so, how does that happen?
I mean, realistically, no. I think this is their best shot of the season. Uh, but when I think about that glimmer that you said you saw this weekend, I don't think that was Midwest and the way they played. I think it was some of the opportunities that were missed by Lansing City. When you think about David Saltzman, 3 different times in the game, he's walking away frustrated because he missed a clear goal opportunity. He makes those, and a couple other players make some of those goals that they had opportunities on, and that's a vastly different game. And we're not walking away with like, oh wow, like Midwest looks a little good. So I think it was some of those opportunities that Lansing City missed and they didn't capitalize on, as opposed to Midwest. Now, 2 players that really stood out: Zach Landers and Josh Postuma. You know, they have been players that we've seen growth from, and we've seen consistency from Postuma all season. And so, if they're going to have a chance in this game, it's really those 2 players that are going to have to carry them.
And if Midwest does come away with a result, that'll certainly shake some things up in the playoff picture. I'm going to throw that up here one more time. So if we see Midwest come away with a victory, then that means Jinga, I have the standings right in front of me, Jinga will stay at 12 points. Imperial and City both have 12 points right now as well. So if Jinga lose this one, then as long as Imperial and City don't lose by more than 17 goals, or for City, it'd be like 30 something, then a loss for Jinga this weekend would mean City and Imperial make it.
Yeah, I mean, Jenga has to come away with a win here. Like for them, if I'm Saturo, I'm coming into this game telling my team, this is how we get into the playoffs. We win this game. Like that, there no questions asked. They have to win this game. If they don't win the game, they don't deserve to be in the playoffs.
And if they don't win this game, or if they do, even if they do, they're still going to need some help because, right now they're 17 goals behind Imperial. So if Jinga and Imperial both end up with 15 points, so if Imperial wins this weekend, then Jinga would have to get a lot of goals. So if Jinga wins, they're hoping for an Imperial or City loss in the last 2 games of the season. If Jinga loses, Imperial and City are almost certainly in. If Imperial and Jinga both win, then I think that's going to come down to the last game at Grand Rapids. It's at Lansing, but Lansing and Grand Rapids Ole, March 8th on the Saturday. It could come down to that one. We could see, I think Imperial would basically be in. I think it would just be, does Lansing City bump Jinga out with a victory?
Yeah. At that point, it would be goal differential really between Detroit and Jenga for that spot, and Lansing City. Wow, that would be a huge game. So if we see Jenga and Detroit walk away with W's this weekend, wow, that game March 8th to end the season. I mean, you couldn't write it up a better way to end the season for FCS. That would be just an outstanding atmosphere. And Ole travels well. And even though they've clinched, they're going to want to win that game, especially against Lansing City. And, man, that's going to be a fun one to be at.
So that's going to wrap up our show tonight. Gerard, last word. Throwing it to you.
Last word. Look, we have been doing a lot of work with stats in the FCS, and we're going back just in the calendar year of 2025. We have over 1,000 shots taken in the FCS. And when you think about how exciting this sport is, it just boils down to that right there. We just talked earlier tonight about Jeremy Kleppel having 35 against Midwest this weekend. This game is so exciting. There's so many opportunities for goals, creativity, opportunities. If you haven't had a chance to go back and watch some of these games or to go in person, please go to these games. They are so much fun. You will be so grateful you did it.
And if you're looking for a very good candidate for a game to come in person, March 8th, Lansing City Arena, Lansing City versus Grand Rapids Ole. Maybe the best game we see all season. We'll see.
Yeah, I think it will be. I will say this, just a preemptive preparation for that. You won't see as many goals in that game because we talked about Ole's defense and their structure. Last time those two teams played, it was a 4-3 battle, and so it was almost like a different game. The level of intensity, it wasn't just random shots or a barrage of shots. Like there was a lot of thoughtful play and creative play to even get those opportunities to take the shots to begin with.
And that one is next weekend. But this weekend, we got 3 games, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So make sure you tune in if you're interested in watching here on the FCS channel on YouTube. We love to have you for those games. Ole facing Midwest first on Friday, Midwest facing Imperial on Saturday, and then Jinga and Midwest clashing on Sunday. That's going to do it for all of us here at the third half in the FCS Live team. I'm Jared Kleppel along with Gerard Ascani. Thanks so much for tuning in. And we'll see you in the next one.
Committing a crime so you can try to escape from prison. Bad idea. Going to the pod escape room to play an escape game with your friends. Great idea. Test your skill as an astronaut in outer space. Find Santa in Save Christmas. Or take a vacation to an abandoned island. Just don't get stuck there. The Pod Escape Room. Learn more at thepodlansing.com.